Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh, my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
Ignatian family, if there's one thing I don't like, if there's one thing that I can't stand, if there's one thing that I hate, it's being told to shut up. Now, the Jesuits here might beg to differ because I don't often shut up. But I don't ever want to be told to shut up. And I don't like it when people tell other people to shut up around me. Just think about it for a minute. Being told to be quiet, being told to hush, being told to not say another word. I find it such a put down. I feel like I'm a grown man, and that's just not how you speak to adults. But I also don't think it's how you should speak to anybody. There's a lot of control and power in shutting someone up. Like when a teacher that you respect, or maybe an assistant principal like myself that you fear, when they walk into a noisy cafeteria and they just walk by your room, their very presence brings the entire room to silence. That's power. That's control. Especially when you're in the middle of saying something and you're hushed or silenced by their presence. Or maybe when there's a prayer that's said over the PA at school and you're in a class or you're walking in the hallway. Those prayers, or at least maybe the stares of teachers, they're powerful and they can silence you or stop you in your tracks. How often do we feel like we've been hushed, Ignatian family? How often do we feel like we've been told to be quiet? Am I the only one that ever feels like I'm told to be shut up when I've got something truly special or powerful to say? Have you ever felt someone to tell you to keep your voice down? Have you ever felt like what it's been told like to not disturb others with what you've got to say? Like you don't have anything worthy of being proclaimed? Well, next Tuesday, November 5th, it's an important day for your city, for your state, and for our country. November 5th is a day that we can express our civic duty. We can exercise our democratic responsibility and make our voices heard by voting. However, we also know the history of voter suppression in the United States is as American as apple pie. From only allowing white men who owned property in the late 1700s to Jim Crow laws, to voter intimidation, to poll taxes, to literacy tests, to not allowing women to vote until 1920. Voter suppression has been a tool used to silence non-white men and all women. Voter suppression laws are regulated gags for eligible voters trying to exercise a fundamental constitutional right. Over the past 10 years, states across this country have passed measures to make it harder for Americans, particularly African Americans, the elderly, students, and people with disabilities to exercise their fundamental right to express themselves by casting a ballot. These measures include cuts to early voting, voter ID laws, and purging of voter rolls. This is where we need steadfast hope in precarious times. Jesus Christ, Son of David, have mercy on us. Domestic violence, physical and sexual abuse, these things keep people silent. Victims tell themselves or others that they deserved it, that somehow their actions led to their abuse. They tell themselves that it's my fault that it happened. Or I can't leave my significant other because even though this happens, I love them, or they really do love me. The silencing and betrayal is at the heart of the sexual abuse scandal plaguing our Catholic Church. The abusers or an ordained minister can act with complete control and power over victims, silencing them with the threat of shame and guilt, or just ignoring them completely. This is where we need steadfast hope in precarious times. Somebody say, "Have mercy on me." This is where we need steadfast hope in precarious times. The wisdom of the streets keeps us silent. You know this so-called wisdom. Snitches get you stitches, Ignatian family. This mindset thinks we handle our business in the family. This is what it means to be a true friend, according to a false sense of community and friendship. We begin to buy into that ride or die loyalty that warns you that you shouldn't believe or become a tattletale. Or you say things like, "I didn't see nothing," or I don't know what you're talking about. This mindset silences us and others. This is where we need steadfast hope in precarious times. Somebody say, "Have mercy on us." Ignatian family. Sometimes we are like blind Bartimaeus and we are silenced. And sometimes we're also like the apostles who silence others, who tell others to keep quiet, who tell others or we tell ourselves, "Why speak out? It's too risky." We tell ourselves or we tell others, "Why share our opinions? Then you might face rejection." We tell ourselves or we tell others contradictions through our silence. People often say things about the Black Lives Matter movement or grassroots community organizing groups that completely misunderstand what they are about. You might hear some people say, "I'm fine with the protesting, but why don't they protest in front of a police station or an approved location instead of blocking traffic?" Somebody say, "But what I heard is," I'm fine with protesting as long as I'm not focused on seeing it, hear it, acknowledge it, or being inconvenienced by it at all, or challenged by anything that it does. You might hear some people say, protesting is pointless. It doesn't make a difference. Somebody say, "But what is being heard is," protesting is pointless because I don't see any immediate change, and my life is pretty comfortable enough that I don't really have to do anything, and I'm kind of happy with the status quo. You might hear some people say, "I support the right to protest, but why don't people get out and organize voters instead? Why don't they propose some solutions instead of, messing things up? Somebody say, but what is being heard is, I support the right to protest, but why can't people trust a system that has failed to address so many injustices for decades, and now it's going to just start working? Also, somebody say, but what I heard is being said. I actually don't really pay attention to the protesters' demands, so I'll just pretend that they don't exist. You might hear some people say, I get that people are upset, but breaking the law in protest of other violations, it just seems counterproductive. Somebody say, what is being heard is, I get that people are upset, but why don't they just politely ask for change? Also, somebody say, well, what is also being heard is, I have absolutely no clue what civil disobedience is about at all. As a result, we control others and we control ourselves. We shut others down and we shut ourselves down. We try to keep things going just the way they are. We perpetuate the status quo because, that's just easier to deal with. Even though the status quo isn't right, even though the status quo isn't just, even though the status quo demands death for some and lets others live, even though the status quo shuts us up, Ignatian family, if your response to violence is more guns, you are perpetuating the silence by being addicted to violence. If your response to terrorism is more bombs, you are perpetuating silence by being addicted to violence. If your response to crime is more police, you are perpetuating silence by being addicted to violence. But just like blind Bartimaeus, we can't be silent, Ignatian family. Somebody say, I can't be quiet. And just like the apostles, we can't quiet others, Ignatian family. Somebody say, I can't quiet others. Like blind Bartimaeus, we can't shut up. Like the apostles, we can't keep others silent. In this moment, right now, not tomorrow, right now, we need to cry out even louder when we are silenced and hushed by others. We need to cry out, Black Lives Matter. We need to cry out, justice or else. We need to cry out, I can't breathe. We need to cry out, me too. We need to cry out, no one is illegal. We need to cry out, one struggle, one fight, climate change, workers' rights. We need to cry out, no means no. We need to cry out, queer rights are human rights. We need to cry out because, like blind Bartimaeus and like the apostles, we are blessed children of God. Bishop William Barber III, a voice for so many silenced in our country, reminds us in his writings. He says, and I quote, from Moses to Jesus, the Bible tells us that those who fought for justice, those who speak truth to power, those who refuse to accept that injustice and inequality had to exist and that there was no better way, always found themselves hated, hounded, and heaped upon with false accusations, simply because they believed in the necessity of speaking and working for the cause of righteousness and building a more just community. This lack of majority support is why the just must live by faith and know exactly who they are. See, Ignatian family, what is important to remember about Mark's gospel is that this is the only gospel to give this beggar a name. And we know that this beggar is not someone to be ignored. Bartimaeus is not some minor character that should be overlooked. He is a man. He is a human being. He is Bartimaeus. His father's name is Timaeus. He has a family. He has worth. He has dignity. He, like each of us here and everyone around the world, is created in God's image and likeness. He has been called by name, and nobody can take that away. Elba Ramos, Selena Ramos, Ignacio Echeria, Ignacio Martin Barro, Segundo Montes, Joaquin Lopez y Lopez, Armando Lopez, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Freddie Gray, George Floyd, Rakia Boyd, Sandra Bland, Laquan McDonald, Breonna Taylor. We call their names to remember their lives, to remember that they were human beings, to remember and to remind others that they are not objects or animals, but blessed children of God. We also call their names to remember what was being defended in their death. To say that it was the poor or a victim, that's just too abstract, and it will never be enough to help me, at least, or maybe some of us, respond like those who have died. When we think and talk about the poor or the crucified people, as Eachria's beautiful and terrifying term phrased, we must think of God's children. Each and everyone is a child of God. Now, not only are we children of God, and not only do we have dignity and worth, and not only do we remember those who have been silenced and hushed, but our gospel, our good news this evening, Ignatian family, is that Jesus hears our cries. Jesus hears us calling out to him. Jesus knows that we are being hushed. Jesus sees us being silenced by the apostles, and Jesus responds to our call by calling out to us. Jesus Christ, Son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus Christ, Son of David, stop them. And we hear this response to our cries from Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus draws close to us. Jesus calls each of us in our need to take courage and get up. And we know that when Jesus is near, the boundaries of silence are broken. And we know that when Jesus is near, the rules are flipped and fixed. We know that when Jesus is near, those who are silenced and hushed are comforted and transformed. When Jesus hears our cries and calls us, healing happens. We are met with mercy. We are restored. We are empowered. We are called. We are given a mission to get up and follow our Lord, to defend the forgotten, to keep safe the oppressed, to watch over the ignored, to guard the victim, so that when they hear God's voice of mercy and compassion and comfort, they know that they are not alone. We are reminded, you never walk alone, Ignatian family. We are called by name to be the hands and the heart of Jesus for others who are in need and crying out. It is our responsibility that the abuser, that the oppressor, that the powerful hear our voices as well, as we shout, stop, and desist immediately. And so we turn to this altar. We turn to this table of healing. We turn seeking to see. We come seeking peace. We hear God call each of us by name to come to the table of plenty. We hear God respond to our cries by taking our offerings of bread and wine and transforming them, transforming each of us into the body and blood of Christ. God responds to our cries by feeding us for the journey and by setting us free to hear the cries of others and respond to them. Like the body and blood of Christ, we too then are broken and poured out for those in need. Because if God got us, then anyone who stays silent, anyone who can't empower those around them, anyone who tells others to shut up, well, Ignatian family, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us.